This summit comes at a particularly challenging time when millions of Africans across the continent are facing severe food and nutrition insecurity. It provides an opportunity for us to reflect on long-term and sustainable strategies of how to feed the growing African population. We appreciate the heads of state and government from the African Union who have provided the policy framework and guidance on the key focus of this summit. In particular, the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, CAADP, has served as the framework for action for agricultural transformation across Africa since 2003. The CAADP, an AU initiative, supports member states in increasing investment and productivity in the agricultural sector.
Soil fertility depletion has been cited as the fundamental root cause of declining per capita production arising from continuous mining of soil nutrients, inappropriate farming practices, including use of blanket fertilizer recommendations. Some of the negative effects of land degradation include the decline in crop productivity, food insecurity, low return on agricultural investment, and environmental degradation. In Kenya, only 18% of our land area is arable for crop production. And moreover, the area under serious production alone measures some 2.7 million hectares, or 47% of the total arable land.
This year's summit is set to evaluate the state of Africa's soil health while reviewing the progress made since 2006 during the Abuja Declaration, which aims to boost fertilizer use of agricultural growth. Despite multiple efforts, Africa falls short of the Abuja Declaration targets. Fertilizer consumption in Africa has only risen from 8 kg per hectare to below 25 kg per hectare since 2006, far below from the 50 kg per hectare. That is why we are here today, to really reshape our 10 years action plan, with very much a bold ambition. The summit brings together over 4,000 stakeholders to evaluate the state of Africa's fertilizers use and soil health. In 3 days of dialogue and deal making from 7 to 9 May 2024, beginning with the agriculture ministers and expert section today and tomorrow, it will be the joint ministerial conference, which will be ministers of agriculture and ministers of foreign affairs. This will culminate in a high-level presidential summit on day 3. Our expectation from the event are the following 4 priorities. The first one is the Nairobi Declaration. The second is the 10 years fertilizer action plan. The third is a soil initiative for Africa framework. And the last is the mechanism to finance the action plan. We cannot be here, live in our capitals, and we cannot implement. We need to implement because fertilizer is core for food security on the continent.
I am also aware that it has been difficult for majority of the African governments to allocate budgets to agriculture and rural development at the levels anticipated in the Maputo Declaration. This has been compounded by the competing resource allocation needs and the impact of the recent COVID-19 that affected the economic performance of most of the African countries and the world at large. As the economies recover, I urge this summit to come up with financing proposals that are practical and achievable. This will be the only way to reach the targets set within the action plans.
The current soil fertility replenishment strategy is based on the integrated soil fertility management practices which advocate for the use of both organic and inorganic fertilizers for balanced nutrient fertilization. This arises from the fact that fertilizers are expensive and calls for precise and prescriptive fertilizer recommendations at the farm level, which are based on precise soil testing to ensure increased sustainable and profitable crop production.
I am also aware that it has been difficult for a majority of the African governments to allocate budgets to agriculture and rural development at the levels anticipated in the Maputo Declaration. This has been compounded by the competing resource allocation needs and the impact of the recent COVID-19 that affected the economic performance of most of the African countries and the world at large. As the economies recover, I urge this summit to come up with financing proposals that are practical and achievable. This will be the only way to reach the targets set within the action plans. Though fertilizers are estimated to contribute more than 30% of the crop yield, we have witnessed in our country that fertilizer alone cannot sustain increased agricultural productivity and production. For example, observations have been made that maize yields have stagnated despite increased fertilizer use. This has resulted in input bundling, emphasis on balanced nutrition, and soil sampling and testing. In recognition of the need for integrated soil management, the government, in collaboration with other stakeholders, has developed the National Soil Management Policy. This policy contains critical directions on sustainable agricultural soil and water management, soil management and environment, technology development, dissemination and utilization, fertilizer development and investments. Ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to take time and attend the Kenya government side event to appreciate the progress made in this area and witness the launching of the National Soil Management Policy.
I want to hear what we need to do to make fertilizers, both organic and inorganic, more affordable and accessible to our farmers. We need to overcome the challenges that are limiting fertilizer uptake and which are common among our countries. This could include cost of the fertilizers, especially on account of importation from far-off sources, resulting in too high transport costs that translate into high fertilizer prices. The perception that our soils are inherently with high fertility without appreciating nutrient depletion through harvested crop biomass. While this fertility perception may have been true in the past, the constant cultivation over the years without nutrient replenishment has left our soils highly degraded. Low investments in local fertilizer production to exploit the abundantly available raw materials. Uganda, for instance, has abundant phosphate deposits, and with the emerging oil sector, nitrogen too will be available. Low capacity and knowledge by smallholder farmers on how to replenish the lost soil nutrients, hence the need for deliberate efforts to educate farmers on use of organic, inorganic, and biofertilizers to sustain, rehabilitate, and enhance soil fertility. It is also critical that we provide appropriate knowledge by conducting in-country soil testing, soil mapping, profiling, zoning, and fertilizer performance trials to guide recommendations regularly for integrated nutrient management. Fertilizer importation is capital intensive, Right Honorable and colleagues. And to break even, you need to import large volumes. This calls for access to affordable finances to facilitate the trade. The implication of this is that very few private sector players venture into it, leading to low volumes on the market, and thus the high prices.
I believe monitoring the implementation of these commitments and initiatives is ongoing. During this summit, there is need to review our performance and, through lessons learned, propose innovative solutions to address emerging challenges. It is important to recognize that we cannot achieve our aspiration of eliminating hunger and poverty if we do not take a sustainable approach to soil health, prudent use of agricultural inputs, environmental conservation, and embracing of technologies that can make our production systems efficient and effective. The realization of this important goal will ensure that as we feed ourselves, we also leave an environment where our generations can be able to sustain themselves. Allow me to highlight some of the key declarations and commitments by our heads of state and government to drive agricultural productivity, to improve food and nutrition security. Indeed, some of these have already been flagged by Ambassador Sacco, but it does not harm to repeat some of them. First, there's the Maputo Declaration. At the Second Ordinary Assembly of the African Union in July 2003 in Maputo, African heads of state and government endorsed the Maputo Declaration on Agriculture and Food Security in Africa. The declaration contained several important decisions, but prominent among them was the commitment to the allocation of at least 10% of national budgetary resources to agriculture and rural development policy implementation within 5 years. The second is the Abuja Declaration in 2006. The Declaration on Fertilizer for the African Green Revolution identified the critical need to increase fertilizer use to stimulate agricultural productivity, growth, to end hunger and poverty in Africa. Then there's the Malabo Declaration in June 2014. African leaders declared their commitment to end hunger in Africa by 2025. That is next year. The Declaration on Accelerated Agricultural Growth and Transformation for Shared Prosperity and Improved Livelihoods focused on accelerating agricultural growth by at least doubling current agricultural production levels by the year 2025. Then there's the Soil Initiative for Africa in September 2020. At the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa Forum, the African Union Commission issued a call for an ambitious, long-term effort to systematically improve the health and productivity of Africa's soils. Improved soil condition will be achieved by scaling proven and locally adapted technologies, including balanced and efficient inorganic and organic fertilizer applications to improve productivity for all farmers and, in many cases, sequester greenhouse gases.